Hello everybody. I'm going to go over my build that I made, and if you want to, you could skip all this stuff and you could just look in the description below and grab the path of building for this build. But if you want more explanation and detail, then listen on. I'm going to go over the build and how I would level it step by step as best as I can. It might not be perfect because I'm not scripting or anything, so I'm just gonna wing it. I thought about it for a little bit before I actually did it, but here goes nothing. I'm just gonna go over the nodes I would take. My first step would be Heart and Soul for more health and mana. Then I would work my way down and I'd get Retribution, swing all the way down, picking up all this health and all these other goodies. And then I would pick up Grave Pack, which is more damage for your minions. Then I'd pick up Combat Stamina, and you probably won't be using the Armor Mastery next to Combat Stamina, so you might want to pick that up in a later time. Then I would work my way over and I would pick up Purity of Flesh, which is a health node and gives you cast resist. You could probably save the Life Mastery next to Purity of Flesh for later on in the game. Then I'd pick up Sovereignty, which is for mana reservation. Then I would pick up Redemption. After Redemption, I would definitely get all of the shield block nodes. I'd get Arcane Guarding with the shield mastery, and then I would definitely get Safeguard and the rest of the nodes around it. Then I would work over and I would probably go and I'd get Influence, and then after Influence I would pick up Steeped in the Profane, and after Steeped in the Profane I would only get the two curse effects next to Malicious Intent. Malicious Intent is not a very good node to take. Like plus levels of curse skill gems doesn't really help your DPS very much, so it's pretty useless. It's not a good node to take, but if you want to, you could definitely take it. As you can see, this build does not really have a lot in the way of tree nodes. Most of it is jewels and clusters, a lot of them. So I'm going to try and go over all the jewels and clusters right now that I have on the build. First, I'm going to go over the Voices large cluster jewels. These are pretty expensive. When I got them, I'm using two of them in the build, and they both cost about 36 divine each. And you want to get the ones that says added 3 small passive skills which grant nothing. The reason why you want to use Voices, these large cluster jewels, is because of how the Carrion Golems are set up in the game. GG wants you to use 4 jewels in order to get 2 more Carrion Golems. And it's just the way it's designed. So getting the large cluster jewel Voices helps a lot with being able to socket all those, while also socketing other jewels to get more effective DPS and survivability. So then you have the Gaze, and I've used the Gaze a lot in my builds. And what the Gaze does is that it increases the damage multiplier per Ghastly Eye Jewel affecting you up to maximum of 30%. The Gaze actually counts as a Ghastly Eye Jewel as well. So you need 4 more of these Ghastly Eye Jewels to actually get the max 30% for your overtime multiplier. The thing is that I don't actually have 4 other Ghastly Eye Jewels, but the damage is so high from using the Gaze that I left the Gaze on the build. And I'll go over the other jewels that go attached with this really quick. The the other jewels, the other ghastly eye jewels that you're using on this build, the stats that you're looking for are minions deal increased damage if you use a minion skill recently. This goes up to 20, and you're also looking for minions have a chance to poison enemies on hit, which has a 15% chance as the highest stat line. The other stats that you're looking for could be anything. But if you're looking for more damage and DPS out of your build, then the stats you're looking for are going to be minions deal physical or chaos damage. And you can also get minions have increased attack speed. So that goes over the ghastly eye jewels and the gaze. Gonna hop back into the tree and go over some other stuff. Now, the Watcher's Eye, I prefer to get more survivability. The Watcher's Eye I'm using has additional physical damage reduction while affected by determination, and it also has armor while affected by determination, which is really good, and it cost me about 15 divine orbs when I got it. And pretty pricey, but I think it's really, really good and helps your survivability a lot to get something like this. If you were to do mapping, you might like opt out of getting this type of gem and want to get haste. While you have haste, you have phasing, which would help a lot while mapping. So that goes over Watcher's Eye. And then I'm going to go over the primordial jewels that you want. I am using the same primordial jewel for the 3 that you need in order to get the extra golem. The main stat that you're trying to get is 20% increased attack and cast speed. That's the highest you could get. And each one should cost you a divine, but you do not need 20% increased attack and cast speed. You definitely get a much cheaper one for a lot cheaper if you don't want to go splurge on the 20% increased attack and cast speed. And you need 3 of these. And the other one that goes with these jewels is an anime stone. Just let me look for it really quick. I am not entirely sure where it is, but there it is. With the anime stone and the 3 other primordial jewels that you have, you get 2 extra Carrion Golems in this build, which is really, really good because it's the main source of your damage. I believe that goes over the anime stone and the primordial jewels. Next, you have a Thread of Hope, and the size you're looking for is a medium ring. And the best stat line you could get is negative 10% to all elemental resists. And once you do get the Thread of Hope, you might actually want to get Golem Commander before you get the Thread of Hope if you're leveling this build. But if not, then you could just wait and keep using your Summon Raging Spirits. But when you get the Thread of Hope, you're going to want to get Golem Commander, and then you're going to want to get Cruel Preparation for more health and resists. Golem Commander gives you an extra Carrion Golem too, which gives you about 4 of them while leveling. I will go over the last Golem that you get in a little bit. So the next jewel that I am using is a medium cluster with Blessed Rebirth. You get any stats that you want, but the best stats you're looking for I don't have. You're trying to get 35% increased effect, and I am not too sure, but you might be able to get minions have increased attack and cast speed by 3%, and that is the best one that you could get. And you want to try to get 4 passive skills with this cluster jewel too. On the top is a Ghastly Eye jewel. I went over the Ghastly Eye jewel a little bit ago, so you should know what that is. And Blessed Rebirth, the cluster that you want to get is it allows your minions that you just created cannot be damaged. So this is really important because if you're doing uber bosses, your Carrion Golems are going to die, and your summon raising spirits are going to die a lot. So being able to like stop that from happening for 4 seconds is really, really good. But you only need one, and it's very, very cheap. I didn't go over this, but the ghastly eye jewels could be very expensive. But you could probably get very, very cheap ones if you don't go for the highest stat lines possible. So that's the primordial jewel, which you're going to have 3 of them with the anime stone. Now, the forbidden flesh and the forbidden flame are liege of the primordial, and I will go over the liege of the primordial in the ascendancy section in a bit. Then I have a cluster jewel that has renewal, which is probably not the best. It might be the best, but it really doesn't matter. What you're looking for is 11 to 12 passive skills, and you're looking for 35 increased effect and 3% increased attack and cast speed for minions. And this is probably going to be pretty expensive. When I got it, it was 3 divine. You could probably get a really cheap one if you really pay attention and try to get it, but you know, it's definitely going to be up to you. Now I have Fire Song, and what Fire Song does, the jewel, it says modifiers that ignite duration on you apply to all elemental ailments. So if you could get 100% ignite duration on you, you're immune to all elemental ailments. So in this build that I have at the moment doesn't have it, but I have a minor god that gives you 60% less duration of ignite on you. So if you wanted to max it out, you could probably, your best way of doing it would be to get reduced ignite duration on a ring, or maybe even on your boots as an implicit from, I'm not sure if it's a Searing or either. But that's the other way of doing it. That's how I use the Fire Song. So, and then the last one is another primordial jewel, the same type that I always use. So I'm gonna go, I almost forgot that, okay, I didn't forget that. So I'm gonna go over the ascendancies because I'm done with the tree. The anointment on your amulet is going to be Whispers of Doom, and Whispers of Doom gives you an extra curse that you could apply, which is huge damage. So when you could get it, it's probably best to get it. So this is a Necromancer build, and I'm going to go over this, how I would get the ascendancies. I would get Commander of Darkness because it gives you elemental resist. Getting elemental resist early on in the game helps a lot while leveling. It also has other benefits of attack damage for your minions and cast speed, which are really good. It's just a great ability, all around great ability. Then I would get Mistress of Sacrifice, and you could use Bone Offering, or you could use Flesh Offering with this build. If you want more protection, you use Bone Offering with Mistress of Sacrifice for more attack and spell block. If you want more damage and run speed, then you use Flesh Offering. Then the last 2 are for damage. You have Mindless Aggression, and then you have Unnatural Strength, which are both pure DPS buffs for your minions. And then I said I would go over it, I almost forgot, but Liege of the Primordial is very, very, very important to this build. It's what makes this build work in essence. It's the biggest part of this build. It's the biggest items in this build. What Liege of the Primordial does, you don't really even worry about the increased effect of your buffs granted by your golem. But the other 2 stats on this thing are what make this build really, really good. And what it does is, summon golems are resummoned 4 seconds after being killed. So if you're doing an uber boss, you do not have to worry about resummoning your Carrion Golems, which is huge. And then when you add it with Blessed Rebirth, makes it even better. And on top of that, you get another summon golem from using Liege of the Primordial. And you're getting Liege of the Primordial from your Forbidden Flame and your Forbidden Flesh. And it's not too expensive when I got it. I don't know if the cost is of it now, but I'm hoping it's very cheap. So I'm going to just briefly go over all the ways you could get Carrion Golems. Like I just said, Liege of the Primordial, Forbidden Flesh, and Forbidden Flame are one. Then you have Golem Commander from the Thread of Hope. And then you have the Anime Stone. And when you use the Anime Stone with 3 other jewels, you get another one, so that's 4. And the game allows you to actually get 1 golem for just being able to get a golem, I guess. So you have 5 golems at the end of the build. So that goes over the talent tree. I'm going to go over the skills really fast. I'll try to do it as best as I can. You have Envy from your United Cutlass, and that's your main weapon, which does a ton of damage. But that's where Envy comes from. Now I'm going to go over the Summon Carrion Golem. As you can see, you have 5 of them. And the default level 21 gem should be very inexpensive for Summon Carrion Golems. The Awaken Bound Elements, cheap. Awaken Minion Damage, cheap. You don't need a 6 for that. Awaken Multi-Strikes is very expensive. But you could definitely get away with just using Multi-Strike Divergent on this build as well, and you shouldn't lose very much DPS to cut corners on costs. Then you have Awaken Void Manipulation, which is cheap. Then you have Awaken Physical Damage, which is cheap. Shouldn't be too hard to get. It should be very cheap. Now I'm going to go over the Summon Raging Spirits. You do not need the level 21 gem Divergent of Raging Summoning Spirits because it's very expensive. You can just use the normal default variant, but your DPS might drop a little and your count of Raging Summoning Spirits won't be as high as 24, but who cares? Really, all the summoning Raging Spirits are there for are to do Withering Touch. And Withering Touch is a huge damage increase for this build. And that goes over the next gem that I have in there, which is Withering Touch, which increases cast damage. Then you have Awaken Unleash, which is 3 Divine Orbs, because I just sold one, I know that. And then you have Multi-Strike, different variant, alright? So, there's only 4 gems for them, and they're really just there to give you Withering Touch. Then you are going to be hard casting Temporal Chains and Despair, and you're going to use Enhance to increase the quality of both of them even further, which is really going to beef out their damage. And another thing is that you don't need to use Temporal Chains and Despair on maps. Your Carrion Golems and your Summon Raging Spirits will do more than enough DPS, so you don't have to sit there and just Temporal Chains and Despair everything that you're trying to fight, because your damage is going to be so high that your minions will be able to take care of it. Really, all Temporal Chains and Despair is there for is for Uber bosses and Pinnacle bosses and map bosses. At the end, if you have all the gear for this build, you're not going to have a problem with map bosses at all. So, or even Pinnacle bosses. Really, it's all you're using it for is Uber Pinnacle bosses. So, I'm going to go over the boots. And the boots are my aura stacking item. I have Malevolence for more dot damage, and Lighten 4, which is probably going to cost 11 excuse me, about 11 Divine Orbs. And Enlighten is really, really good. It's very important. This build is very heavily reliant on mana reservation, so you might have some problems with your mana. So, and then you have Determination for more armor and survivability. Then you have Haste for more movement speed, cast speed, and run speed, which is really good. Then on your weapon, you have Flesh Offering, which is a minion buff, and also gives you movement speed. Like I said before, you could definitely use Bone Offering and get away with it on this build for more survivability. I'm going to add that as an option, but I'm going to leave it unticked. There is a better variant for this, the Virgin, but I'm not. It gives you like a 64k effective hit pool bump, but you don't need to use it. But if you want to, you can. Then you have Tempest Shield, which is a different variant. And here's the thing: why do I have Divine Blessing on my weapon? Well, the thing is that when you have Divine Blessing on a United Cutlass weapon, you're allowed to use Envy as a buff, as like an aura buff, which is really cool because a level 25 Envy costs a lot of mana reservation. So being able to use the Divine Blessing to make it a buff instead of an aura helps a lot, and it's a lot of damage. Alright, that goes over the weapon. And then the gloves. This is just like your utility item. You have Desecrate to summon minions. Or pretty much, actually you don't have any minions to summon. All you're really using Desecrate for is Flesh Offering or Bone Offering on bosses. Or like when you need it against like a Guardian or anything like that. Then your movement skill is Flame Dash. Then you have Molten Shell for more protection, survivability. You have Vitality for more health regeneration. And that goes over the skills and gems. I'm going to go over the items really fast. And then first you have the United Dream Cutlass, which is insanely good. And like you don't need the best variant. The best variant that you could get is 80% increased damage for minions, but it doesn't matter. That it'll cost you about 3 divine to get the best in the game, but you don't need it. Like it's unnecessary. Just having the United and Dream Cutlass is more than enough. The Atari's Reflection is really, really good as well. And if you want the best variant, it's going to be 20% increased effect of your curses. You do not need 20% increased effect of your curses, but if you want to do max DPS, that's what you're going to look for. This cost me 6 Divine Orbs just recently to get, and all the other stats on this item make it a great item to have. So it should probably be much cheaper if you want to get the less increased effect of curses. The helmet I got like a couple of days ago for 1 Divine Orb, and I was just looking for +2 to the level of minion skills, some max life, and summon Carrion Golems deal 40% increased damage in Jan. And you definitely want to get the increased mana reservation efficiency of skills from the Eater gems. And the model unique enemies in your presence, 16% increased temporal chains cursed effect is really good from the Searing gems. So this item is very good optimized. So you could definitely follow the stats on it. The Covenant is huge. It's increasing your damage a lot. What's really causing this item to do a lot of damage for your build is that item that is because Socketed Gems are supported by level 29 added cast damage. And this is really crazy. But the drawback from this item is that you have to use life as well as mana when you cast skills. And that's why I have Vitality on my build, so I could counteract that. The +1 to level with socketed gems doesn't really matter. You could definitely get away with not having the implicits, but it definitely helps your damage a little and your survivability a little bit with the reduced extra damage from critical strikes. The boots and the gloves I got for 1 divine both, and I was just looking for more resists and movement speed for the boots. I did not look for anything special. I don't even have implicits on my gloves, I noticed. So you could definitely put any implicits that you want on your gloves and boots. Just look for more resists and movement speed. Here's another expensive item. The Ashes of the Stars. I have a really good variant, and it cost me 32 divine orbs to get this item. But really, what you're really looking for when you're getting this item for this build is a 20 increased reservation efficiency of skills. So it could drop your cost of this item probably by like about 10 to 12 divine. Even though the quality helps a lot for your damage as well, it's not necessary. Don't be scared of this item. Just try to get that increased reservation efficiency skills, and it should be much cheaper for you. The 2 rings that I got are really good optimized. You definitely are just looking for more minion damage and attack speed or whatever, but I really like to look for more minion damage and attack speed, health, and not to resist. Both of these rings cost me 2 divine. So really the big ticket item in this build is the Ashes of the Stars. So the Darkness Enthroned, very cheap, very good item though. The Ghastly Eye Jewels I went over, they could be pretty costly, but you could definitely get very cheap ones. I'm using a Granite Flask for more armor, a Balsat Flask for more armor, the Pro, which I don't know how much it's going for anymore, but when I got it, it was like 11 divine. I'm assuming it's cheaper now. I'm hoping it's cheaper. Then I'm using Runeized Concoction for more spell and attack block. Then I'm using the blood for my healing. I went over all the socketed jewels. Alright, I'm going to hop into the configurations. I forgot to put the resist penalty. Doesn't really matter, but you're going to kill all bandits. Major God is up to you depending on what you're doing or how you feel comfortable with playing. Then you're going to use a minor god that I have that gives you less duration of ignite on you by 60%. You have no power charges or frenzy charges. If you use a minion skill recently, yes, you're going to be using bone and flesh offering constantly, and you're going to be summoning raging spirits a lot. Number of corpses consumed, 5. You're going to be consuming because you're going to be doing flesh and bone offering a lot. And you have 10 non-nearby golem minions, and you want to have 10 because this is a huge damage increase for Carrion Golems, and that's where the summon raging spirits come into play again. Not only are they giving you more damage from withering stacks, but they're also giving you more damage for your Carrion Golems by having 10 of them around you. Is the enemy poison? Yes. We have tons of poison going on in this build. We have the weapon, and we have the Ghastly Eye Jewels, which is going to probably be like around 100% poison chance. The Withering stacks, 15, are coming from the Raging Summon Spirits, but really, the Withering stacks aren't always going to be 15 when you're doing normal trash and monsters and maps. But it really doesn't matter because they die so fast anyways. Really, you just want to make sure that you have 15 on Pinnacle and Uber bosses, and maybe even Guardian bosses if they survive that long enough with this build when it's fully decked out. I forgot to tick Intimidated. You get Intimidated from Awakened Melee Physical Damage from the Carrion Golem 6 link. This is set to Uber Pinnacle, and as you can see, I have a warning, and it's like about 39 to 40 million full DPS, and the warning that I have is that full DPS exceeds in-game limit. and it's right on the cusp of that.